Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. You're going to see it looks a little different behind me because I'm on location in St. Petersburg on the beach. So, as I said, a little special occasion for myself here. But tonight, we're going to be talking hoodoo, and we're going to be looking into Miss Aida. She's the author of Hoodoo Magic: Spells for Power, Protection, and Righteous Vindication. Like I said, read this one. It's a really fascinating book. This is a subject I didn't really know a lot about, but I was watching a show with Tom Cardos on his show, and that that one was really fascinating to me. And so I reached out to him to see, if he wouldn't mind getting me in contact with Miss Ida, and they were more than happy to do that for me. So they did. We got this show, and so she is a hoodoo practitioner and author of several books. She's a natural born medium, Santeria initiate, registered nurse, Air Force veteran. She's got the accomplished list here. She's renowned authority on hoodoo and it can be reached at missaida.com. So sit back and prepare to learn along with us all about hoodoo. And that's right now.
Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is white.
Justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, and we're waiting for Chris. He's trying to get some headphones here, but at this time, so instead, we're going to bring Miss Aida on right now. And how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm honored.
You're welcome.
Hi, Chris. There he
is. He might be muted. I can't hear him.
I can't hear him at all.
Let's see. He might have to flip a switch on it. We'll see.
You're welcome.
All right.
Hey.
There you go. Yay.
Yes.
welcome so much. I'm glad I could get something to work to hear you.
Now you're nice and loud and clear.
Awesome. Yeah. So like I said, I showed in the intro here. So that's a book, Hoodoo Magic. This is one of, if I'm not mistaken, you have, is it 5 books?
Yes.
Oh, look at that memory. Yes. Yes. So we get 5, and they're all available, unless I believe on Amazon, and other bookstores. That's where I purchased this one from. After listening to the show with Tom Cardos, he got me in touch with Brian Bowden. He's a friend of ours as well, and he was the one that got us.
Brian. Brian's our bro. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And he, so that's why I said I don't like, it's a weird term, but I don't like poaching guests off of all of us work together. There's a lot of us that are working together, which is really fantastic, and I like that. But it's one of those. I don't like seeing somebody like on one of the other shows and immediately reaching out and getting you on the show, because I feel like I'm just piggybacking off of somebody else. And so it was nice to get you on. And like I said, I really did enjoy reading this book. I mean, there are a few pictures, but there's tons of, the recipes for the stuff. So you got the spells. So it shows you everything that you need, what you need to say. So there's this one I said we'll get to that as we go through here. But I just wanted to did I miss anything in your introduction on what to do? Because I know Miss Aida is the place to go find you. MissAida.com.
It's Aida.
Aida. Okay. I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Aida.
That's fine.
That was me just translating in my head. So no. Yeah. So
No,
is
in
that
Spanish it's actually Aida, but people
Aida.
can't say that, right? So I say, well, then say Aida because
Aida? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm more than happy to be corrected. Yeah. So no. So where to begin for the people that don't know
about
what
hoodoo.
is the easiest way to describe hoodoo to them? When they want to know, it's like, what is this? Because I mean, I know in your book you talk that it is root magic. It's the way that you talked about. But how would you describe it to something like, say us, like, what is hoodoo?
Okay.
Know yourself.
So hoodoo is a folkloric African derivative tradition. And when the slaves were brought to the United States, they brought along their religions, right? And then it melded with other practices and became hoodoo. And hoodoo is now an integration of African practices, Judeo-Christian, Asian, Native American, European, and it's forever evolving. But the core roots is African.
And I really liked. I'm trying to find the page number real quick. I think it was right in the very close to the beginning of the book. It's right in the introduction, and it's. I'm trying to find the page here. Just like I said, horrible audio here. There it is. It's on chapter 1. It's the very beginning, and it was one of the things that from the show and through the preparing for this one is your spell work has to be justified.
Yes.
And because that was one of the ones, like, questions I really wanted to bring up with you is, how do you avoid the karmic consequences of some of these things? Because I'm looking at it, because if somebody wrongs you and you perform a spell, you go ahead to seek justice. What is a safeguard, even for like yourself, that you put in place for somebody who had a misunderstanding? Like, it was a misunderstanding. I did the spell thing, and then it ends up being like, on the karmic side, I'm the wrongdoer at this point now, not the person that I assumed wronged me.
Okay, so you're asking me. I got a little bit lost here.
Oh no, I'll try to use that. It was basically, say I was under the impression Chris did something to me, and so I asked you to perform one of these spells. Well, after we've done the spell, I come to find out I was completely mistaken. Chris didn't do anything. It was somebody else. So what is the safeguard to prevent something like that? Because like I said, that would have massive karmic consequences to send somebody that did nothing wrong.
Right. So if you were my client and came to me and asked me to do a spell, number one, I would ask you what happened. Okay. And then I would do a reading to find out, A, if you're lying to me, B, if you're overreacting, right? And I also use a lot of psychology. What did you do? What did Chris say? What did you say? What did Chris say? What did Chris do to you? What were the ramifications? What ended up happening to you after Chris's actions? I don't like using somebody we know as an example. Let's say John Doe, okay?
Yeah, we'll say John.
But for the average person, and I've said this on many shows, and I'd like to tell this story again too, and I believe it's in my book. But one of my clients, and she was a very, very powerful practitioner, and her boyfriend left her for another woman, and that woman had no clue about my client. This woman was innocent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to curse this. I'm going to curse her. I'm going to curse her. You know, unfortunately, this client was also a friend of mine, right? So I can't just dismiss her. And I
Yeah.
tried to talk her out of it, tried to talk her out of it. And she kept saying, I want her dead. I want her dead. I want her dead. And she did spell after spell after spell. And that poor girl had a baby and then died 6 months later.
Mm.
And my client slash friend is now suffering severe depression. She's suicidal. She has no energy when she talks. She's isolated. So God has a way of punishing you if you do something that isn't justified.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Yeah, excellent answer, because that's what I was, one of the things, like when reading this, is just like, how do you safeguard against these things? Because you get somebody that they could just be completely mistaken, and they just go, they go all in, and they just want to, just absolutely hammer this person. And so so it's nice to know that that's one of the things that you really delve into, almost like psychology. You really got to find out, was there something here?
Yeah, and that's why I say in my book to wait, wait, wait. And during that time that you're waiting,
Patience.
you can figure out what type of spells you want to do. I'm going to tell you how many times people have called me a bitch and I want them dead on the spot. Okay, because we react this way. We just do. It's human nature, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, some people act on that, right? And that's where the problem arises. And I've never, ever, ever seen a situation where someone was punished unjustly and karma didn't come back to kick him in the butt.
Yeah, that's.
And if
No,
and
go ahead.
if I may add, a lot of people, they want these spells done, they want all this stuff done, but they don't realize exactly how powerful it is. That's why you, as a practitioner, as a center, you have to let them know. And then you tell them, when you give them the reading, you say, well, I don't think this person is your problem. I see that this is your problem. And then you direct them on how to fix it. But I know you also give them the consequences of what's going to happen to this person once they do that. They may not be your friend no more. That may be your best friend, but you're like, she's got animosity for you. She's backstabbing you, but this is the spell that you can take, but she's going to distance herself, and you'll just sit back and see the spell working. Because I've called my babalao, and I've heard some stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And it may not happen. It's not going to happen on your time. That's like when Christians pray. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't just get rich, or you just don't get your fortune overnight. But when you set that motion into play, it's gonna come. Your Santos, your Babalao say it's gonna work. And then you'll just start seeing it take in motion, and you're like, wow, okay, it took motion.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So I had another question. Hoodoo, do you find it more powerful than Santos, than voodoo, or that's just the one that you choose to
Okay.
practice more?
Okay. I'm not a voodoo practitioner. I'm a Santeria. Okay.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, I was asking, do you find this one the most
Oh,
powerful in your?
do I find? No, I Santeria is more powerful because when you're practicing Santeria, you're going to the orishas and you're explaining things to the orishas, right? So they're actually doing the work for you. So I mean, that's like asking me if I'm more powerful than an orisha. No, you know what I mean? So, but there's a misunderstanding, and I'm glad you brought that up because there is a misunderstanding. Santeria is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful religion. It is an African traditional religion. And I get a lot of clients that call me and go, oh, they did Santeria on me and I'm cursed. And, they're a Santeria and I'm cursed. Well, the Orishas are loving entities, and they're going to take care of their children, right? They're not going to go around punishing people if the punishment isn't justified, right? So if I go to one of my Orishas, let's just say, I happen to go to Papa Ogun, and he's one that would do your fighting for you, or Babaluaye. There's a really good one. Okay, if I go to Babaluaye and I lie to Babaluaye and I say John Doe did blah 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 to me, and John Doe didn't, right? I'm gonna get punished for lying. So I'm glad you brought that up.
It was my pleasure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you have to give them something in return to get something, and it's small sacrifices and small offerings to them in order to get your ultimate goal.
Right, you're a bull. Yes, but they're doing your bidding for you. You're not doing it.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the as you guys were talking too. I found it because when you were talking about patience, that was one of the things you had in there too. Just you address, like, when people do these spells, how long do they wait for? That it can be from almost immediately to a long time. And then you even said, in your book, you said, if it's been about 2 years and nothing's happened, you probably need to try again.
Right. But I also encourage practicing, one spell after another spell. Don't fret over the spell that you've performed. Okay. Do the spell. When it's completed, forget about it, then do another. Because the way I explain it is, it's like putting straws on a camel's back. Okay. So you just want to keep piling on those straws until the back breaks. Now, why is that? That's because, and that's the book I'm going to be sending you, is because we, a lot of us have very strong auras. So right now, if you were to do one of the curses in my book, right, on me, it's probably not going to affect me at all because I have a strong aura. So you'd have to keep doing stuff and doing stuff and doing stuff to what you're actually doing is breaking down the aura, right? It's like throwing your aura is a shield around you, right? So it's like throwing dirt. It's almost, I'm speaking metaphorically, but it's like throwing dirt until it suppresses and it gets tears or holes in it, and then your spells can really work, right? So that's why some spells take forever and some work right away. So if somebody's down and out and really hard on their luck and very depressed and all that, hey, I'm going to tell you, 1 or 2 spells may do it, even 1. But if somebody's got a nice, shiny, healthy aura, and unfortunately, we get sociopaths and psychopaths who like to harm people, right? They usually have a strong, shining aura because they get their gratification from harming others, right? So it takes a lot of work. And those are the major oppressors. Those are the ones that really do the most harm to people.
Now, do you encounter when I'm trying to see if I can say this again without stumbling over my own words? So basically, like, the term is like a psychic vampire, somebody that just preys on those other people. So are you able to spot those people pretty much right away? The ones that you can tell that this is something that they're basically out to feed. This isn't something that they're looking for justice for themselves. They're just looking for the chaos, the stuff that the gratification they're going to get. I mean, can you spot those pretty quick?
Yeah, in most cases I can, but in some cases I can't. So, I mean, I just had someone recently, a few months back, just really double cross me.
Wow.
And it threw me for a loop. So, it's most of the time, fortunately, I can tell with strangers. But if somebody has wormed their way into my life and they, have befriended me, it's harder. It's harder to tell, because what you want to do is, and this is human nature, right? If I'm seeing the good in you and then you start displaying some bad behavior, what do? I justify your behavior. You know, Chris is having a bad day. Craig's having a bad day. Oh, they really didn't mean it. So you keep justifying for them in your mind because you want to believe it's a good person. So it's easier to detect these behaviors, or these not behaviors, but these intentions from a stranger.
Now, there's a way I wanted to phrase this. Edgar Casey, I hope I'm getting the name right. The psychic that would go through
Yeah,
his.
Edgar Casey, yes.
Yeah. So do you ever have anything kind of like in those reactions? Because like he would do stuff for people, but if he ever did anything for you know, self-interest, like, try lottery numbers. I mean, anything that he tried to do, that he became physically sick and ill if he ever did that. So it was one of those things. That was his thing. He couldn't do anything like tell you like how to get financial gains, how to do these things, because anything that could be where something like I'm trying to think the best way to phrase this is, it was almost like if it was something, if he was taking instead of giving back, it's like he would become visibly ill, and sick.
Yeah, I call it prostituting the gift. And so you're not going to know this because you're way too young, both of you. You could be my kids. But back in the olden days, there was this show called Dallas, right? And it was a pretty popular show. And there was this actress, and she found this psychic. And this psychic had some sort of an entity that was around her since she was a child. And the actress stumbled on this psychic and brought her to fame. And the entity that was with the psychic kept saying to her, you do not prostitute me for these monetary gains, or I'm going to leave you. And this entity was with this woman since she was a child. And she ignored the entity and literally prostituted him. And guess what? One day, let me tell you, she bought a big house and she had all this fancy stuff and she was like psychic to the stars. And one day he had enough and he left her. She lost everything because she didn't have a gift. It was the entity that was around her. So it happens. And Chris, in Santeria, I don't know, how far into it you are, but I have seen in my lifetime a lot of people who are either santeros or claim to be santeros that start abusing, okay? And they initiate people without going to babalaos. They initiate people and say, you're an expensive orisha has your head and this and that. And they start prostituting the religion. And every single time, and I just sit back and watch these people, every single time they drop dead. They drop dead,
like I've seen in Cuba, they charge us access of like $2,000 to find out who your orisha is and stuff like that.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Look it up. In Cuba, they charge like $2,000 or $3,000, and people go from around the world that want to get into religion, and they spend that money to find out who their head orisha is.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
It is. People are outrageously charged for this, and then some people you go to here, they do it to for all the wrong reasons. So I went to a house here in Central Florida. I couldn't even go to the door. I called my babalao immediately. I was dropping somebody off, and he was like, "That energy is bad there. Don't go there." He smoked his tobacco. He called me back. He's like, "The energy is bad there, super bad." And I'm like, so.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the going rate, it takes 5 babalaos to call down Orula. I like to call him Orumila. It takes 5 babalaos to bring him down, and then they tell you who has your head. And the going rate, if they bring a group of people, different, like they have not just one person, they have a bunch lined up to do this, it should be around $500.
That's what
$2,000.
that's what I paid. That's why I thought it was a little way absurd. I'm like, is it Cuba's doing something that they're not doing?
That's so, and $2,000 in Cuba is like, God,
It's a lot. Yeah.
$40,000 or $50,000 here. That's just ridiculous.
Now I'm curious, being the layman that doesn't really know a lot about this stuff either. What is the significance of the 5? Is that because you said it takes 5 babalas to
very good question. I don't know the answer to that. And you know what? I used to be in a perturbe for a babalao. I never even asked the reason. It has to do with Tata keys, and I don't know.
Now, it doesn't have anything to do with the 5-point, like 5-point, like stars, how like witchcraft and stuff has, has the pentagram, has that stuff. So it's not tied into anything like that, is it?
That's not tied. That's not tied at all.
Okay, yeah, because I was just I was curious, is this, the significance of why the 5? I mean, it's just, it seems like that might have somewhere in there.
Very good question. I never bothered to ask.
I want an answer for that one now. I mean,
yeah, so do I. I bet you it has something to do with Oshun. But let's are there any I don't have my glasses on. I'm not sure if anybody's asking.
Well, there's one he's asked a couple of times. I was waiting for the right moment. It's typically it's the usual question that a lot of people have. What is the difference? Because it's one letter difference. What is the difference between hoodoo and voodoo? Because most people have that, it comes up, it's like, oh, you're talking about voodoo. No, it's hoodoo. It's completely different. But so if there was an abridged version, how would you, what would be the easiest way to say?
I can give you a short answer to that. So voodoo, just as is Santeria, is a religion. It's an African traditional religion. Hoodoo, on the other hand, is folkloric and is an African derivative tradition. So voodoo is a religion, hoodoo is not. There you go, right in a nutshell.
And then this is kind of picking and choosing through the chapters, but some of the stuff that I really liked, how you broke it. I mean, even in one spot you talk about for some of the spells when you need the cobwebs, is to make sure that you go to a non-used web now, a defunct, an old web, because the poor thing to spend all that time creating this web and you just go and rip their house down.
Right. I'm very against things like that. And no offense to you, Chris, but that's one of the reasons I left Santeria and Palo. I just had enough of animal sacrifices, and I've become like the opposite, like, be careful with nature.
So I had a question that nobody probably will answer on the up and up. I'm sure you'll answer it. Can you mix hoodoo and Santeria? Those are not mixable? If I start dabbling,
no, they both have African roots. Absolutely, I've done it a zillion times. If you look at, I fell into hoodoo like a fish into water because the similarities are astounding. They're just absolutely astounding. I mean, if you studied hoodoo, Chris, it would be like really super duper easy for you, right? And that's why I liked it so much, because I still felt at home without having to sacrifice animals. But yes, I've integrated both. Absolutely.
On some of the research I've done on hoodoo, I don't see anywhere in hoodoo is the cigar tobacco smoke big in hoodoo, or it's not.
Yes. It's not big, but it is a practice. Yes.
Okay.
Now, what is, and this is where as I'm doing these shows, I'm really trying to learn, what is the significance of tobacco? What does this have? Because you always see, whether it's cinema, there's always rum and tobacco involved, where they're blowing the smoke, they take the drink, spit the, all over, whatever it is. And then, so what is the combination of those two? Is it the offering, or is there something to where?
For Santeria, it's the offering. But for the other thing is, when you have smoke, what do you have? You have air. Air represents communication, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, tobacco smoke is just like incense. So what happens with incense, as with tobacco smoke, is the entities are attracted to the odors and they come to you right away because it's like a calling card. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's the significance there.
And then in your book, candles, it was one of those things it put in there, and that was one of the things I don't know if I ever really would have really paid attention to that. If you're going to do something, never use a candle again. You know, it needs to be a virgin candle because that one's tied. It's like that one's already got the imprint. That one's tied to the
Exactly.
previous thing. So don't ever use that one again.
Exactly.
But you really shouldn't reuse a candle anyways. You should let the candle burn itself out.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
why you get candle readings and you look at how the candle burns as far as the ritual. So you should let the candle burn out. My wife is completely against burning candles in the house, so I have an altar outside in the garage in kind of a safe space, so if it falls over it won't catch a fire. But you're supposed to let the candle completely burn out.
Or you have the battery operated ones like I have, and I just go click, click.
I don't
But you know, one of the reasons, and I have a whole chapter on candle, you know, and I've covered stuff that no other book has ever covered. And the reason that I was very, very specific about that is because a lot of people will save their candle remains, right? And once they have enough candle wax, they mix them all together and make another candle. And that to me is a big no-no.
Yeah, because it's what because I've seen somewhere there's with that, like if you melt it down, recap, to another candle, you're good. But yeah, when you kind of put it that way, this would be like taking remnants of all these different things and putting it. So now you just have this big, just basically just trail mix of for less, just this you never really know what you're going to get. It's a grab bag of the candle. It's like I was finding here, it's just everything from you talk about everything from trimming the wick to cleansing the candles, doing inscriptions, blessing, dressing. You go through the whole thing of like what you're supposed to do with the candles.
Everything you've ever wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask.
I got to get my hands on that book. I missed the ordering process. I thought maybe Craig would have ordered me one.
See how Craig is.
I know.
On this occasion.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
He has Amazon. He can order.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. No, as I said, it's one of those. I did. This was kind of one I didn't even really tell him a lot about when I got it, and then I was like, oh yeah, this will be a nice one for him because he's always had the stuff for Santeria. So he's always talked about how he'd like to, and I'm like, well, hey, we've got one for you, one that you actually know a little bit about. This is going to be one where I'm going to be learning a lot about this going through the show, which is nice.
What I really despise about people that don't know much about the religion, and then they go and grab the leques, the goyas, because they think they're fashionable, and they'd be like, what is this guy doing? I'm like, oh, your beads. Oh, yeah, I just like them. No, you realize what all you've got going on there? You might put something together that don't even react right with you, and you just start having all. I don't know. I just see a lot of people.
You know how I feel about that is they haven't been fed, so they're really not active. That's how I look at it. But it's kind of a shame because in my generation, a santero or santero had to make those. I call them collares, the necklaces. Okay, for the people that don't understand, they're called eleques or they're called collares. And they had to be made by a santero or santero. And nowadays they just sell them online, and
Amazon.
People actually believe that they are initiated. And even getting those beads, there's an initiation ceremony. Now I see you have Orula's beads also. That's a different initiation ceremony. as opposed to the other beads. So it doesn't mean you're an initiate. And those beads have to go through certain things themselves.
The Santeria has to fast. They have to pray. They smoke their tobacco. They put all the beads together by hand. They don't. Nothing is made from. It's all cleansed, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we make them, we have to make them with the omero, but then they still have to be fed, and you still have to go through a ceremony. So we're talking about Santeria right now, folks. We're kind of jumping all over the place here, but that bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is people selling eleguas online. That really bothers me. You know.
Now, what to help those that what are those?
Elegua, well, Elegua is a stone figure that has the essence of one of the orishas in it. You'll see stone figures, and they have like faces that are that are made from shells,
Curry shells,
and it looks kind of intimidating, but he's a loving orisha.
Now, April asked a question too. So, with not to stay too much to the Santeria side, what is the specific reasoning for each one of the necklaces?
They represent an orisha, so every orisha has their colors.
Now, is it a certain combination how the colors have to be put together, or is it just something?
It depends. So if you're not a santero, then you get the basic ones. Okay. If you're an initiate, then it's whatever path that you're following. So I can't answer that in 5 minutes. That would be like a 2-hour lecture.
Yeah, no, there was a quick one. And like in Hoodoo, it was
the path of who has your head and what path and what the orisha says to do. The only one that remains the same, if you can show them. Oh, he just left.
I think he was having a coughing fit. Somebody must have got him.
The Orula one. That's the only one that remains the same. That's a representation of actually Orula and the orisha that has my head, Oshun, Mama Oshun. So yeah.
Now, is there anything like that for Hoodoo?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing. So how like myself, because I'm I don't have like, if I was to look for somebody other than Miss Aida, going to .com, how would I be able to recognize somebody that was a Hoodoo practitioner other than if they just put it up here, I practice Hoodoo?
No clue.
Yeah.
No
so
clue. I'm telling you, there's so many frauds out there. I mean, I could go on. You know what? I knew this woman, and she kept telling everybody she was a PhD psychologist, and she's me, I have a master's degree in nursing. I'm going to be able to recognize if someone has a PhD. And everybody was going to her and giving her money. And I couldn't find her online because anybody that's in the medical profession, your license is online. You can look me up and see my nursing license online. So I thought, well, maybe it's, I found out everything about her. I found out her maiden name, every state she ever lived in her whole life, and she wasn't a PhD. She wasn't. And somebody that was going to her on the side ended up killing himself. And I could right now, and right now I could put online, I could start a website and write MD, PhD, JD for a lawyer. Who's going to look me up? You know what I mean? So I mean, there's just too many frauds out there. And the reason I bring this up also is, I'm very into German Shepherds. And I've had German Shepherds since I was 12. So I've had them for many decades. And I see all these websites where they show the trophies and my dog, my dogs have this. And well, I can do that. I can Photoshop trophies, or if you have a bunch of trophies, I'll take pictures of your trophies and put them up. It's like, how are you going to find out if this is true or not? So unfortunately, the frauds in the metaphysical community, and I speak of them, in my book, Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic, it's just very easy to get, what's the word? I don't want to say screwed over, but screwed over. So I have warning signs in my Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic book. But to straight away recognize somebody, that would be hard. The one thing I will tell you is if a practitioner insinuates or threatens to curse you, right there, that's a fraud. A lion doesn't have to tell you that it's a lion. Right.
Now, how do you safeguard yourself against something like that? Because, I know a lot of people, if I really had to some, just being somebody myself, I wouldn't know from just we'll go, Jane Doe. If I walked into, she said she was hoodoo thing, and I started to just get something where it didn't feel right. How do I know if I'm honestly going to be cursed by this person or not? I mean,
you're not going to get cursed. I mean,
yeah, because
that's the thing. People are so afraid that they're going to get cursed by this, pseudo practitioner. Cursing takes a lot of energy. It's not where you just say a few words and that's it. It takes a lot of energy. And they're not going to curse you. If they threaten to curse you, they're lying. So, I always tell people, trust your gut feeling. Now, when people ask me to perform spells, I do everything in my power to dissuade them. I do everything in my power to try and talk them into performing their own spells, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't immediately try to get money from them for spell work. And that's another thing. If they're too quick to offer spell work, something's wrong.
And then I just had actually a really good question for you. Have you ever seen any of the African gods, either through dreams, waking dreams, or the corner of your eye?
The thing about, so we're talking back, we're about Santeria again.
Is that Santeria? Okay.
Okay.
That's the layman in me. I'm not going to know the whole lot of it.
And I've had encounters with them. And what they do is they'll come into a form of a person. And I've had many encounters, but the most fascinating one I ever had was when I was going for my master's degree. When I first started my master's degree, well, not when I first started, right before I was starting the program, I was a little bit nervous. And people kept saying, the program's hard, the program's hard. So I prayed to Obatala. That's one of the Orishas. I prayed to Obatala and I asked him for help, and I asked a lot. And it was, what I asked was ridiculous. And what I asked is that he show up the first day of school as a physician from Nigeria, as a sign. And I don't know why I asked something like that, but I just wanted a sign that he heard me. So sure enough, the first day we had orientation, and there was this man sitting there, and I couldn't stop staring at him. So when we introduced ourselves, he had an accent. And after the orientation, I came up to him and I asked him, I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Nigeria. You already knew that." And he got up and he left. And I was like, whoa, right? Anyway, days went by and I went to the director of the program. I said, "Whatever happened to Dr. So-and-so?" She says, "I don't know." She said, "He was on our roster and now he's not on our roster." And he never came back. And here's the weird part. I was the only person ever to graduate from that program with a 4.0 GPA.
Wow.
Ever.
Congratulations.
So I've had, and when you're in Santeria, you will encounter them. You will encounter these, and they come as people. And I've had several encounters, several. Yes, they come in dreams too.
Now, real quick, Sharon, no, that was using that as an example. I have not been threatened with a curse. I was just using myself, like if I was actually to go to some places. I like to use that thing because I like to use things that are familiar. It's one of those, I feel like when I make up too many things, it's like people get lost in the details. So I like to stick with myself on those things. But no, that's awesome. I mean, when you get those experiences, because those are the ones where everybody always has those, where, the guardian angel thing, those different things where you encounter somebody, you're like, who was that? Who are you talking about? Oh, the guy that was right there. It's like, no, who are you talking about?
So there's an Orisha, his name is Babaluaye, and we know him as Saint Lazarus. And a lot of times he'll pose as a homeless person. And Santeros are terrified not to give a homeless person money, in fear that one day it might be Babaluaye. So they show up, the Orishas will show up as people. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool test. It's what yeah, it's even my son, he had a real soft spot. I mean, I always tell that joke, just downtown, we were downtown Orlando. It was the same thing. It just, the guy was, hey, can I have some money? And I was like, no, I don't. And then Chase was like, no, Dad, you got money in your pocket. I'm like, okay, no. And then I just had to explain to him, it's like, son, your heart is in the right place, but you have to read the area around you, because there's a good chance, that's said, you could be just as much set up as you are helping somebody in need. I go, so it's a lot better for you to go to some place. And I said, think of it like in this case, it'd be like the offering. Go to a place, buy some food, bring it back to them, feed them, give them water, give them something to drink, give them something to food, feed them. And when you do those things, that's going to be so much better than just walking up and handing them a $5 bill. Because it shows that you actually took the time.
I'm too lazy. I just give them money, and I don't do it out of fear. I mean, I've always given money to anybody that's asked, and I mean, people on the street. I always.
Oh yeah.
And it's my contention is, here's my contention, and I'm wrong on the numbers. I'm just making this up, but in my mind, I always say that 80% of them are going to get drugs and alcohol, but there might be 20% that are really hungry. And I can't be the judge. I'd have no right to judge. So I give everybody money, and not for fear of Babaluaye. It's just,
Well, you're right on the numbers, because there's that thing, the 80-20 rule, where 80, it's just what it is, like out of 20, whenever you do that, it said 80% of the people, are going to have something like that, where 20% are going to be good. You're going to have those things. I mean, you're pretty close, right on with the numbers. And yeah.
And I've volunteered in the Capuchin Soup Kitchen, and I'll tell you, you hear some of those stories, and they're just so sad. And I always encourage everybody that, and that's where I got to disagree with you, Craig. If somebody asks, if somebody's out on the street, at least give them $1 so they can get a well, like this in this situation, White Castle or some fries or a candy bar or something.
Well, that's where I was telling them, it's like when you're in situations like this one, we were walking down, and we weren't in the best neighborhood. We were walking to a sporting event, and so like I told him, it's like. That's why I recommend it. It's like your heart is in the right place. I go, it's like, but in this case, where we're at right now, it's better for us to go to some place like a McDonald's, Burger King, something, buy the food and bring it to them, as opposed to just pulling the money out of your pocket. Because I told him, I go, we're just as likely that's put him in need, or that's the spotter that's setting up us for his buddy who's either walking behind us or in front of us.
Well, let me tell you something to burst your bubble there. Okay, so when I volunteered at the Capuchin Soup Kitchen, a lot of them would take the food and
Throw
sell
it.
it for money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean,
Yeah. It's one
there's
of
the
those.
bill, there's the
Yeah.
way. You know?
It's kind of at that point you just have to realize it's like you kind of did, you did the right thing. It's like what they do, you can't really help what they do with it. They can't help if they just throw it in the trash afterwards.
Right. I
It's
mean,
like at least,
don't be giving them $20 bills, you know, but
yeah,
giving them
exactly.
something that they can buy, potato chips, something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of those things too. It's like, whether through this, it's just like the place. It's people that are looking, like this book talks about the cosmic justice. This is doing the right thing, is pretty much the underlying thing. It's just across the board. It's like if you wrong somebody, I mean, you've told that story, in several shows you've been on. You also talk about it here in the book, about your grandmother.
My godmother, yeah.
Your godmother, yeah. That's and that was that story is right there too. It's just where somebody, down the line, it's just like you get, I almost, while I was reading it, it came across me. I almost felt bad that this consumed her. This became such a thing that she had, it seemed like she spent so much time focused on this. It's like I felt bad that it was in a way for her that she had to go through this. It's like got punished, and then you punished yourself again trying to get justice, and it's like, man, I felt bad.
Yeah, and she got double crossed pretty much. Buried there. I mean, she worked her fingers to the bone. She did it for her family in Cuba to bring them over. They were starving, and she was doing all of this for nothing. She got screwed over. She was justified. She was justified.
And that, and that kind of with the justification thing there too. How do you figure out what is the appropriate, steps to take when you've been wronged? I mean, there's not really like a how-to guide of if they did this and this, like, what are those choose your own adventure stories things, like the book, where it's like, okay, if they did this to you, go to page, 35, it's like, so what, maybe that's the next book, the how to, but when you look at it, so what would you say? I mean, has so many generalities in that thing too. It's like, how do you go through and figure out what is the next step when somebody comes to you with a problem?
I think you kind of two-folded this question. So
it is. That's what I said. It's pretty hard because what I'm trying to figure out is just like, if John Doe or Jane Doe comes to you with a problem, what is your next step to figuring out what is the appropriate level of spell work of something that needs to be done at that point?
I'm so experienced. I just immediately know what to do.
Okay.
I've given you, I think in that book, I've given you 110 spells, and I'm a walking encyclopedia. I probably have like 1,000 spells in my head, probably more than that. So, that I just know what to do. I just know.
Yeah,
depends on the severity of the crime, if you will. Okay. It just depends. It just depends.
Yeah, I think Chris is back. He might be back.
He's back.
Maybe,
No.
maybe not. No volume.
I can't hear him now.
Yeah, he might have forgot to flip the switch again.
I'm having all kind of technical difficulties, guys. Thank you for our fans, but I keep bouncing out. I'm sorry.
You were all over the screen there.
I know you're like bobbing back and forth. Yeah, no, it's because that was just one of the things through reading this thing. I was just thinking, it's like, how do you determine what is the appropriate,
And in the book,
step to go to?
In the book, it gives you, if this was done, there's different chapters. There's different chapters. So the other thing too, in the book, if you don't like performing spell work or afraid to perform spell work, there's a whole bunch of prayers in there. I put a whole bunch of prayers. And
Oh yeah.
I like to remind people that the Psalms that are in the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, they're not, you know what they are? They're spells. The Psalms is a spell book all by itself.
It is.
And I've got some Psalms in there that are designed specifically for cursing. And the beauty about that is you tell God what happened, and God will, what did God say? Revenge is mine, right? So God will handle it, and God will know if it's justified. So you have nothing to worry about there. And there's prayers to saints in there also, but
Yeah, you've got prayer to Saint Joan of Arc and Saint Jude.
yeah.
You know, in Santeria, most of the prayers and the bath prayers come out of the ritual prayers come out of Psalms. Psalms is basically a prayer guide to everything. A curse.
It's got curses in there. It's got Psalms to send people away. There's actually Psalms in there to get somebody to fall in love with you, you know, for attraction. There's Psalms in there for everything, safe travels, identifying a thief. There's all kinds of, I mean, there's a bunch of Psalms.
And the one of the ones like I actually turned to, then it's funny, it was actually one of my questions. It's the one that surprised me was the peanuts.
Oh,
Thing about peanuts. Yeah, it's and I'll read it from here too. It's just like peanuts have been utilized in cursing spells for centuries. In Hoodoo, Santeria, and Palo. When I became, is it a palera? Is that how you say it?
When I became a palera, yes.
Yeah, I was warned never to eat peanuts as it will weaken my powers.
Yes.
So is that still the case? I mean, like I said, I mean, do you avoid those? You know, so
Yes.
you don't get to know the pleasure that is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Well, if I
it's like, yeah.
You know, it's like once in a while, like I don't do readings on the weekends, right? If I don't have a reading the following Monday or Tuesday, then Thursday night after my last reading, if I'm not doing any spell work, I'll have a little peanut butter because I like peanut butter. I can actually feel myself, you know, I would never perform a spell after having eaten peanuts, not for at least a couple of weeks. It actually weakens me as a psychic also.
Now, what is it about the peanut that does that? I'm curious about that too, because I know, like you say, like for cursing, you know, you take the peanut shell, you know, the holes, and, you know, throw those at the doorstep. And I'm like, what is it about the peanut? Is it because, you know, it's a root, it's grounded? I mean, it was like, what is it that
it's the magical powers at each, and I'm glad you mentioned roots. So it's the magical powers, herbs, roots, minerals, plants. They all have magical powers, all of them. And you know, when you awaken the powers in them, that's okay. Let me give you a counter argument, okay, or a counter question. Why do oysters make you horny?
That's a good question.
So,
that's a good question. Yeah.
You're kind of asking me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No. I get it. No, it's the same thing. It's that joke thing. It's like, you know, how they discover with mushrooms. You know, it's like you just go one of there. You know, you pick a mushroom. Well, Bob's dead. You know, this one tastes like a steak, and I'm over here fighting unicorns on a dragon after I ate this one. It's like, you know, it's like, who came across these things? And I've just, you know, it's all throughout these food things. It's like, you know, who was it where it's like somebody that was practicing and just they're doing the stuff, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, these things look tasty. They're eating them. And it's like, God, I can't do anything now. You know, it's like, how did these things come about? Because it seems like such a random thing that something like a peanut, we're just taking the shell, the whole, and throwing them at a doorstep is a curse.
Right. Because of the magical powers that they contain, just like, you know, plants and minerals and roots and everything has power. My question would be, how did the ancients discover this?
Yeah.
How did they discover the magical powers? And that would be something that's up your alley. Did ancient aliens bring them? I mean, not aliens. Yeah, did aliens bring these the knowledge to mankind? Somebody did. Somebody did.
Yeah,
And what's really interesting, what I think is very interesting too, is that a lot of the beliefs regarding certain things exist all over the world. How did all this information get around the world? So
yeah, no,
aliens
I agree.
us,
It's
or did God, or did saints or spirits? I mean, there you go.
It's
because
food for thought.
because like the spell work is just, you look at these lists, it's like, who found out that if you combined, St. John's wort with this herb and these herbs and these herbs come, all of a sudden, boom, this works. I mean, just you think about the trial and error that would have to go through this process to get that. And Michael, you are correct. I'm going to have to, this is actually one of those, like a thread I'm actually pulling. It's like, I got to figure out how did the peanut thing, like why peanuts? It just seems like such a random thing. It's like, yeah, it's a peanut. I can't do it.
It's not.
I know it just feels, when you read it, you're just like, why peanuts? This just seems like such a crazy thing. It's like, yeah, it's this Samson's cutting of the hair for a practitioner. It's like, accidentally eat a peanut and you're just like, well, I'm done for a couple days. Yeah, it's crazy. No, but it's, as we're getting close to, it's,
but I mean, there's a lot of herbs too that, aside from the peanut, in that book, I have a lot of herbs that are used in cursing because they have the same magical powers. I mean, not the same exact, but they have the magical powers to impose negativity on someone. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me.
Oh no, you're good.
Oh, excuse me.
I mean, yeah, there's some, like, I'm just, I'm trying to figure out, see if I can get real quick which chapter. But this is one that talks about everything from dolls to the, there's the Gravely handshake, that you talked about here. The other one too that was, there's the variety one. It's the hat hatred, where you mix graveyard dirt with powdered snake sheds and dust the hat of your enemy. And there's a lot of these ones. I mean, we're just going to go the fiery feces. Somebody's going to have to really wrong me to ever come to that part, because I mean, it's like, I'm not diving in that to get the necessary ingredients for that one. I mean, that one, it's like somebody's going to have to really have wronged me for me to,
Had a lot, what about the times that people were impoverished and, they had outhouses? It wasn't so disgusting back then. I work with feces a lot. I work with dog feces a lot when I do cursing work. So, it's you, and I have it in the book. You have to, if you want to be a successful practitioner, you got to get your hands dirty. You really do.
Yeah.
I mean, and that applies to Santeria also. I mean, as an aperte, I did some nasty stuff, and you just can't be appalled or disgusted by anything. You have to just
it's really good. I mean, I said I really recommend it. I mean, it's just, I know we were talking about, you weren't happy, with the publisher and stuff, but I mean, this was a fantastic, well written, and there's a lot of information in here. As I said, I told you that, and I still think it's, it's terrible that people have reached out to you for a free copy of this book and then not even brought you on to talk to you. That's
crazy.
This, I said, I just listened to you and I bought the book. I mean, because I was like really interested in learning. I said I wasn't even, I didn't even reach out like, hey, send me a free copy, we'll have you on the show. No, I was like, I bought the book that night that Tom Cardos was interviewing.
I appreciate that. That was so sweet of you. Thank you.
So I was looking forward to that. So, but I can't think.
I just want to say something for the audience. We were talking about feces and getting your hands dirty, and those are just a few spells in that book. I've got I've got like 110 spells in there, and most of them just you can use herbs. There's things that spells that you don't have to use anything. So, it's just a few spells that I mentioned the feces.
Oh yeah, it's
But they
and
are
then
effective.
Sharon asked a question. Yeah, this book right here is basically it's about protecting yourself and getting vindication for when you've been wronged. A couple I haven't read them. She was wondering if this book was just about curses and spells against people. But your other one, the one that you held up, I think, isn't that one which is more of the blessings and protections?
Yeah, this is Hoodoo cleansing and protection magic. This is like the complete opposite of Hoodoo justice magic. So,
Yeah, that's
and
so yeah, so that's one of those, so please, like I said, that's where we talked. We were just going over this one, but yeah, if you're not looking for the cursing stuff, it's like definitely the protection one. Like I said, I'm looking forward to reading that one as well. So it's
and that book might be more up your alley because I talk a lot about paranormal activity and portals and all the different ways that people can be affected negatively and how to fix it and how to protect yourself and prevent any further harm.
yeah, and there's this one. Yeah, it's like got several people. Thank you for your time. And like I said, the work that you've put into this. It's this one's great. Like I said, everybody just go to Miss Aida .com. Check her out. She has all the information on there. Everything from supplies to you've got the dolls on there as well. You're also available for for your services as well too, and that people can check you out there.
And please join my Facebook. I have a live event every other Sunday, and that's Miss Aida Psychic on Facebook. Miss Aida Psychic. So I offer free lessons every other Sunday on something.
Yeah, definitely check this. I like those. I even made sure to plug it for the show thing to drive people over there for you too. So I hope
thank you.
Yeah, I got that because I wanted it's like I said, and that's one we have one. It's like if it isn't controversial, it's boring. Go Aida. Yeah, so it is. So they got. So there's a lot of
any questions at all that I didn't answer?
I think King, who's frequent, viewer of ours, says that we have to have part 2, and so I'm pretty. I said I think so. I think definitely it's like get the other book in there, and like I said, and we'll see about getting you back on too. For another show. Yeah, because that was a lot of fun. This time, hopefully Chris won't miss half the show.
I know.
I know. It's like.
And then we're talking to Chris like this, and we're talking to Chris.
Well, Brian M. Bowden, he cracked a joke a while ago. He was like, "Man, that curse you put on Chris worked." I'm like, I don't. I know it just knocked him straight off the air. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I came back in. My camera wasn't straight. Then I tried to twist it. I'm like,
Yeah,
the energy wasn't working tonight for me.
Yeah, Sharon, if you got that question, put it in real quick here before we go here. So, yeah, Sharon said this is a wonderful show, and a lot of people are just going to, saying thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And then, what about cryptids being used as protectors in hoodoo practice?
I'm not even going to go there. I'm terrified of cryptids. I'm not going to. Are we talking about Bigfoot and?
I think everything, just like everything from the Pukwudgie to to Mothman
I never heard of utilizing them to protect you, but that's way over my head.
So werewolves. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I can't see myself going up to a skinwalker and saying, "Hey, will you protect me?"
Yeah, when to go. So but everybody, like I said, check out the book. Like I said, we definitely, I definitely recommend it. It's, really well done. So you can go Amazon.com. I believe you can also, the links are all on your site, missaida.com too, to get to the books as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So check that out. Go there, check out our website, go follow Miss Aida Psychic on Facebook as well, so that way you can watch live shows and thank her for being on there. I just, Miss Aida, thank you very much. I really,
thank you so much for having
I
me.
really appreciate it. Yeah, I said it's, hopefully everything lived up to the promise, that I made, that was going to be a good show. I hope.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care. Like I said, we will be in touch. Like I said, if you want, just hold on till after the show, and I'll get you that information for you.
You
Yes.
can email it to me.
Yeah. I can email it to you. Yep, definitely. So, all right. Well, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. This episode brought to you by threebeardspodcast.com. Check us out there. You can also go to redbubble.com/threebeardspodcast, and you can buy merchandise there, or you can get it through threebeardspodcast.com. Go to the merchandise shop and purchase and support us there. Follow us on YouTube, please. Help us get we're trying to get to 1,000 followers. So if you haven't yet, please go to YouTube and follow us. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, obviously Facebook. You see us here. Twitter, we're Three Beards Podcast. Check us out there. I just appreciate everybody coming on and asking questions, listen to the show. Please, like I said, go check her out. The book is really fascinating. It has lots of information. I mean, we weren't able to touch on a fraction of what's in this book. So we're on ERRT Radio, 11 p.m. Wednesday-ish after Outer Realms. We follow Joey there. So, go check that out. Follow them as well. Help him get to 100,000 listens. So we appreciate Ron for doing that for us. But everybody, thank you for watching. We will see you next week. We've got a big one. We're going to have the boys back, and we're going to be talking New World Order. So we got a conspiracy coming your way. So that's going to be a fun one. So everybody, thanks for watching. Have a good night. We will see you next week. Good night.